We've been hearing about and feeling the effects for years of political division across the nation and most certainly in Congress, where it feels like nothing is ever getting done anymore. But there's a new effort underway to find some common ground. It's called the Senate Project Debate Series, and it kicks off this coming Monday with an hour-long debate between two high-profile U.S. senators from opposite sides of the aisle. Vermont Democrat Bernie Sanders and South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham. Fox News host Bret Baier will moderate, and it will stream live on Fox Nation. The effort is led by the Edward M. Kennedy Institute, the Bipartisan Policy Center, and the Orrin G. Foundation. And I'm joined now by the chairman of the board of the EMK Institute, Bruce Percelay, along with fellow board member and chairman of the National Endowment for Democracy, Andrew Card, who also served under Presidents George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. Welcome to both of you. Bruce, this is such a unique and wonderful event. Can you describe a little bit of exactly what's going to happen? They're going to be in person actually debating, and what are they going to be debating?
Well, there's much to debate. I'd like to back up for 1 second and explain how this happened. Two of our board members, Tom Daschle and Chris Dodd, had just returned from the Senate, and their observations were very disturbing to them. This is an institution that they knew and loved, and they did not recognize it. The division was such that they raised the question, what could we, the Edward Kennedy Institute, do about it? And the idea came up to take senators from the far right and the far left and put them in a room together and see if they can have the same kind of civil debate and respect for one another that was shown by Ted Kennedy and Orrin Hatch years ago. And that was the genesis of the idea. But the debate itself will be designed to find common ground, to have open discussion, to have the type of civil discourse that the Senate does not see right now.
Andrew, obviously you've been in this business a long time. You know, my mom used to always point to the Senate and Congress and say they're always fighting. She was politically active, but she'd say they're always disagreeing. But there really is a marked change between how it used to be and how it is now. Is that your experience as well?
The Edward M. Kennedy Institute is really the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the U.S. Senate. So it celebrates the remarkable democracy that is practiced in our Congress, the upper branch, the U.S. Senate. And this effort that Bruce has so carefully worked to put together, along with a lot of other people on the board at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute, is designed to help polish our democracy and highlight the reality of what it means to be in the United States Senate. The Edward M. Kennedy Institute houses a full-size mock-up of the U.S. Senate. So it's entirely comfortable for these senators to come and kind of be at home in a U.S. Senate building that looks like the one they really work in and have a debate. And you couldn't ask for two more polarizing figures than the two that will be coming. They both have very strong views, left and right. And I happen to believe that the rug of American politics today has more fringe than rug. And they represent the fringe, but they actually recognize that the importance of governing requires them to give permission to stand on the rug every once in a while. And I think that's what we'll see in this debate.
I want to look at some information from the Pew Research data from March from 2022 about the polarization of Congress. There are now only about 24 moderate Democrats and Republicans left on Capitol Hill versus more than 160 in 1971 through 72. Democrats on average have become somewhat more liberal, while Republicans on average have become much more conservative. You know, Bruce, I have to say I wake up every morning and I can't decide if I'm worried about the future of democracy or if I'm making too big a deal out of it. Matthew McConaughey yesterday at the White House talked about how the media is sort of expanding our differences rather than talking about our things that we have in common. And if you look at the results from the primaries last night, there seems to be a move of moderation on both sides, where voters are choosing moderate candidates, both on the Democrats and the Republicans. What's your experience, Bruce? What do you think when you wake up every morning?
Well, Our board is a very good indicator. We have an enormously talented board that has played at very high levels of government. And the concern is very real. I don't think this is just a snapshot in time. I think there are some fundamental issues that need to be solved now. And it is very hard for Republicans to interact with Democrats and Democrats interact with Republicans without feeling vilified by their own parties. I mean, it's almost as if they're fraternizing with the enemy. That is not how things get done. And this is a division that I think is something that is new. I think it is disturbing, and I think it is something that needs to be corrected. Clearly, it is the motivation for what we are doing, and we think it is a clear and present danger, as we saw on January 6th. So in answer to your question, this is not imaginary.
Yeah, Andrew, tomorrow we're going to have these Senate hearings, as Bruce mentioned, the January 6th. Congress has been working on this, done a whole year or longer, done hundreds of interviews, if not more. It's a bipartisan committee. It's led by a Democrat and a Republican. I'm a little bit hopeful, cautiously hopeful, that at the end of these hearings over the next few months leading up to September, I think there's going to be 8 of them, I'm hoping the American public sees Republicans and Democrats working together to address an issue which I hope we can all agree was egregious. Do you share that optimism that there'll be good results that come out of these hearings?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I was very troubled with what happened on January 6th. It was just outrageous. I literally was weeping as I saw what was happening. And I think the work of this commission, and remember, this is an unusual commission. It wasn't really created with the support from the minority party. It was kind of in challenge from the minority party. So it has a little different standing than other commissions that have been created. But yes, I do think their work is very, very important. These hearings will be very important. I hope the American people pay attention. And I hope those who are conducting the hearings will be measured in their commentary so that they don't, I'm going to say, exacerbate the divisions in America. We're much too tribal today, and there really should be an acknowledgement that what happened on January 6th was terrible for our democracy. It was bad for the world to see. After all, the world looks up to us to see what is the right way to have governance in a democracy, and we were very tarnished on January 6th. I am optimistic that if enough people pay attention, and they give permission to their elected representatives to take a step left or right, depending where they're starting. If you're starting in the right fringe, take a step to the left. If you're starting with the left fringe, take a step to the right and see if you can't help to polish our democracy. And the Senate is the chamber known for having the most productive debates. And what the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the U.S. Senate is doing is highlighting the value of that institution of democracy called the Senate and inviting a rational debate around some of the important issues that are so critical to our democracy and, quite frankly, send an example to the world on what democracy should be.
Bruce, can you talk a little bit about Ted Kennedy and Orrin Hatch, to the relationship, the way that things got done in the olden days with senators who had very different views, very different constituencies, but somehow were able to support each other as colleagues and work together on issues that both their constituencies and they cared about?
What was remarkable about this relationship, and they were truly odd bedfellows, they were so different. Ted Kennedy was brought up with wealth and privilege. Orrin Hatch was reared in a renovated chicken house. He was from deep poverty. He was a devout Mormon. He obviously represented a different part of the country. These were two individuals that had virtually nothing in common. And when Hatch started out, by his own admission, Ted Kennedy was someone that was one of his targets. And slowly but surely, they spent time on committees together. They got to know each other. Ted Kennedy had a considerable charm, and he melted the thaw. that caused them to produce really meaningful legislation. I mean, the CARE Act, the ADA, there were child insurance programs, there was Medicare Part D, things that were meaningful and that are legacies today. The difference is they could fight like cats and dogs on the floor of the Senate during the day and be seen having dinner together at night. And it is very hard to be vitriolic with someone who you enjoy being with. And the Senate has become a commuter institution. Just the very act of having barbecues together on weekends and playing softball, it changes the entire dynamic. And today that is not the case. So it was a relationship that really defied conventional wisdom, but we're not seeing it today. And I think that's one of the things that we are trying to do with the Senate project is to get Lindsey Graham and Bernie Sanders to appreciate each other as people. And it could have a profound effect.
I'm sure that it will. And Andrew, one thing that they didn't have is social media, which we have now. And you have a situation where Ellen DeGeneres can't sit at a football game with the former president without catching heat for it. President Joe Biden can't talk about nicely about a former colleague who may be at odds with current politics and may actually have real issues, but he can't speak warmly about that person as a person. These are hurdles that we have that didn't exist before. What would be your message to folks who want to have quick reactions to things that they see on social media or when they see in the news?
Well, social media certainly has changed the dynamics of politics. And unfortunately, it's caused people to be, I'm going to say, too quick in responding. I actually wish people would take the time to taste their words before they spit them out and use a little more judgment and recognize that your first emotional reaction probably is not right. And you should not base your opinion of a debate from your first emotional reaction to it. You should actually take time and pause, listen, and then speak. I like to say, taste your words before you spit them out. And maybe I should say, lick your thumbs before you tweet them out. What we're inviting people to recognize is that the strength of our democracy comes by having people actively engaged. But we are a representative democracy, and it's our representatives that have the responsibility to listen to us and then exercise judgment. We do not expect them, and we should not expect them to follow us as if we are commanding them to do things. We're actually challenging them to do things, and we're inviting them to do it. But I feel very strongly that social media has accelerated the conversations to the point that too many people get stuck on stupid too early.
Well, we look forward to a more moderated debate on Monday over at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute and on Fox Nation. I thank you both for joining me. It's great to meet you both, and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.